The glass shook before I realized my hand was. Light fractured through the cut crystal, jagged and sharp like broken enamel. The wine clung and trembled, settling into the carved ridges as if reluctant to spill. Across the table, the roast gave off its careful steam, perfumed with rosemary and restraint, like even dinner had been rehearsed. Her voice came thin and sharp, slicing through the white linen between us. "Leave your keys. Go." No rage. No plea. Just something absolute like a lock turning from the other side. I stared down at my untouched plate. The meat bled faint pink, raw as an unhealed wound. Her fingers tapped against her stemmed glass. His hand rested inches from hers now. The man with the mismatched cufflinks and a polite, steady smile that never seemed to falter. The chair legs dragged against the floorboards, screeching like a wound being opened slow. I laid my keys between the salt cellar and the knife blade. Her mother gave a single nod. The same nod she'd given at our wedding, except then it was approval. Tonight it was an obituary. I left my coat behind. Outside, rain pressed down in sheets, the kind of rain that clings instead of cleansing. By the time I reached the motel, I was soaked through. When the phone rang Monday, I let the answering machine take it. The room was too dim to care. A low, buzzing lamp cast the kind of half-light that swallows color. The mirror across from the bed showed a man who wore my mouth but not my face. The message played clear, almost cheerful. "This is Franklin from Crestview Mortgage. Confirming transfer of the $780,000 joint account. The payoff is complete. Thanks for the coordination." I didn't listen to the rest. Not because I was startled, but because silence had been louder than betrayal for years. It hadn't started that night. It had started long before. Before his hand slid too naturally across the small of her back. Before her lips whispered his name in her sleep. Before the login credentials changed and her perfume became something I never purchased. The first real fracture was quieter. A doctor's visit I attended alone. A graveside with no one beside me. A note folded instead of words spoken. Love doesn't collapse in a single blow. It seeps out like smoke, curling under doors until you're breathing it in, choking, calling it air. She once told me she hated ghosts. Hated how they lingered without asking. How they stayed when they weren't wanted. I didn't understand until I realized I had become one. There's a photograph I buried in a drawer I don't open. She's mid-laughter, eyes half closed, joy flooding her face in a way you can't fake. My arm is wrapped around her waist. That couple, those people, died somewhere between blueprints and miscarriages. Now the house we chose, where I once trailed paint swatches down her back, no longer carries my name. It's theirs. But the mortgage, the floor beneath their feet, was still tied to me. Until yesterday. Until I shifted the funds. Until they answered a call and found their foundation gone. The lawyer's number sits saved at the top of my contacts, like she once was. I don't dial it. I don't have to. The wound was cut long before they expected it. And I don't feel victorious. Revenge isn't flame, it doesn't roar. It's frost. Precise. A scalpel, not a blade. I imagine her at that same table, hands clasped, throat tight, tapping nails against glass. Him beside her, pretending comprehension of accounts he never built. They'll expect rage. Instead, I've left silence. That's how you haunt someone. Not by shouting, but by vanishing and taking the floor with you. I remember a drawer in the kitchen I built with my own hands. Not for forks or bills, but for loose screws, pens, and once a folded page. I don't think I love you the same way anymore. She never gave it to me. Just tucked it into a crack of silence. That weekend I replaced the rails, pretending not to notice, pretending not to bleed. Love doesn't shut off like a switch. It recedes like the tide, leaving a crust of salt that clings to everything long after the water's gone. Now the motel reeks of bleach and strangers' grief. I sit in the dim and watch cars hiss past the rain-smeared glass. My hands are steady again but no longer warm. I don't call anyone. There's no one left to dial. I wonder if she weeps. Not from shame, she isn't built for shame. But from the realization that ghosts don't knock when they leave. They simply go, taking the ground with them. There's a kind of silence heavier than death. Not the hush of graveyards, but the pause that lingers after a confession. I left the keys, yes, just as she demanded. But I kept the deed. Not from spite. From principle. From something older than vows, deeper than contracts. the refusal to be erased. The rain hasn't stopped. I light a cigarette and watch the ember glow. Part of me still waits for her to call, to scream, to explain. She won't. She understands. It was never about the money. It was about the memory. And I've taken it back, slow, deliberate, $1, one silence, one ghost at a time.